Welcome back, everyone, and Happy New Year. This PD is based on an article by Brett and Kate McKay and references books and concepts by philosopher Nassim Nicholas Taleb from 2007 and 2012. So these ideas are not new, but something I had not considered before and felt compelled to share. My thought being that our focus on resilience is a good start for the average airman, a minimum. But it seems there might be something bigger and better out there, something to strive for that can make us even better as people and as an organization. This PD is largely a breakdown of the McKay article with many direct quotes, hence the citation on the slide. Honestly, I'm just going to straight up read a lot of it since it's really well written. Hopefully you find this video a good primer for our Thursday discussion. The article begins by asking, what's the opposite of a person or organization that's fragile? Most would say robust or resilient, but Taleb would disagree. He argues that if fragile items break when exposed to stress, something that's the opposite of fragile wouldn't simply not break when put under pressure. Rather, it would actually get stronger. The word Taleb uses to describe this is anti-fragile. He argues that if you want to succeed and dominate, it's no longer enough to bounce back from adversity and volatility, to simply be resilient. You have to bounce back stronger and better. You have to become anti-fragile. Before diving in, the article provides some background. In 2007, Taleb popularized the idea of black swans in his book of the same name. In a nutshell, a black swan is an event, either positive or negative, that comes as a surprise, has a major effect, and is often inappropriately rationalized after the fact with the benefit of hindsight. The mortgage crisis of 2008 was a black swan event, as were both world wars. Many walked away from reading The Black Swan with a fatalistic view. Stuff happens, so don't bother trying to predict things. But as Taleb's main message, yes, stuff happens. The trick is to put yourself in a position to survive, even thrive when it does. In Antifragile, Taleb's newest book, he offers some simple heuristics to help people and businesses, individuals thrive in a life swirling with volatility. He makes the case that people, systems, organizations, things, and ideas can be described in one of three ways: fragile, resilient, or anti-fragile. First, the fragile. Things that are fragile break or suffer from chaos and randomness. Fragile systems, people, and things seek out tranquility because they have more to lose than to gain during volatile times. They are concave. As fluctuations increase, see the x-axis above, they experience more loss. Taleb likens the fragile to the story of the sword of Damocles. Take a minute to look it up, but the point being that with great power and success come great peril and anxiety. As Shakespeare put it, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown, or more money, more problems, as Brooklyn native Christopher Wallace once said. When you're in any position of power, one small jostle could bring down your house of cards. You're actually more fragile than you might have thought. You don't have to be in a position of power to experience the sword of Damocles effect in your life, though. The sword could also be something like debt. When you're in the hole, everything is good so long as things are relatively stable. But add in a bit of volatility, you get sick or your car breaks down, and the sword falls. So we know that fragile things break or suffer from adversity or volatility, but what is it exactly that makes something fragile? Here are some of the qualities that Taleb argues contribute to fragility. Number one, fragile things are typically large. Size often offers a false sense of security because large organizations typically aren't agile enough to survive, let alone thrive during times of adversity. There's too many complications and layers of bureaucratic red tape to allow for quick action. Think of the Titanic. In stressful times, it pays to be small and agile. Consider General Brown's Action Order B to accelerate change across the Air Force. He seeks to increase our speed and efficiency for analytically informed and timely decisions. 2. Fragile things rely on responses to stress which come from the outside. If something is fragile and is exposed to stress, there's nothing built in to help it fend off the stressors. The response has to come from something external. For example, imagine a teacup falling off a table. because it got jostled. The only thing that would prevent it from breaking would be some external force or object, like you catching it with your hand. The same applies to people or business. A fragile person will likely require outside help when they hit life's rough waters because they lack capital, be it financial, social, or emotional, to help weather the storm. We're not saying there's anything wrong with someone needing external help, just that in an optimal scenario, people would be able to fend off their own stressors or gain strength from them. Third, fragile things are overly optimized. Fragile businesses, people, and organizations are often too smart for their own good. Our modern world is obsessed with efficiency and optimization. Individuals are told to be as efficient as they can with their time, and it works if everything goes to plan. But everything rarely goes as planned. The central problem with being overly optimized and efficient is that we can't predict when problems and errors will pop up. Overly optimized systems typically have single points of failure. The Mackays offered a tightly planned European cruise as an example of this. But in the C5, we are well aware of how attempted optimization by TACC contributes to stress and complexity over the course of a mission. Fourth and finally, fragile people and systems seek to eliminate variability, noise, and tension. Because fragile people and systems don't have built-in responses to stress and variability, they try to eliminate it completely from the equation, but that's simply not possible. Remember, randomness and variability are the rule, not the exception. So trying to eliminate stress and change ends up making an already fragile person or system even more fragile. An example of this is helicopter parents, who, in their attempt to make life as safe as possible for their children, actually set them up for sometimes debilitating failure when they're inevitably faced with adversity on their own. Human psyches require variability, adversity, and stress to become strong. By depriving their children of stress, helicopter parents fragilize their future. Next, the resilient. They don't care if circumstances become volatile or disruptive up to a point. They remain steady in times of both adversity and tranquility. Taleb likens resilience to the mythical phoenix. The phoenix, if you remember, is an immortal bird that dies by fire and is reborn from its ashes to its initial state. The phoenix doesn't get better or worse from its cyclical death and rebirth. It stays the same. People can be resilient when they stay cool, calm, and collected during periods of stress. Buddhism and Stoicism promote psychological resilience, as both philosophies teach indifference to change. You can see in the graphic above a direct tie to our Air Force pillars. Resilience or robustness is certainly more desirable than fragility. We should all do what we can to make ourselves, our businesses, our society more resilient. But Taleb argues that if you aim just for resilience, you're essentially settling for the status quo. Sure, when things are resilient, you bounce back from adversity, but you just bounce back to the state you were before the fall. To be truly effective in a world swirling with complexity, randomness, and risk, you can't stop at resilience. Whenever you can, you should find opportunities to actually grow from disorder. The goal should be to move beyond resilience to become anti-fragile. Before we move on to the anti-fragile, from our sponsor, I am a big fan of the Godfather series, but like most, I was disappointed with the third installment. For a number of external reasons, Francis Ford Coppola put out an inferior product that has haunted him since 1990. Now, I'm usually wary of director's cuts as they come across as a money grab, but like Oliver Stone's Alexander, the ultimate cut, Coppola actually improves the film. It's not quite up to the perfection of the first two films. It's okay. It's definitely an improvement, and if you're a fan of the series, check it out. Leave the gun, take the cannoli. All right, the anti-fragile. Things that are anti-fragile grow and strengthen from volatility and stress up to a point. When people or systems are anti-fragile, there's more upside than downside when black swan events occur. Anti-fragile systems feed on chaos and uncertainty like a primordial god. Taleb likens anti-fragility to the Hydra from Greek mythology. The Hydra was a hideous, multi-headed lizard monster. Whenever a hero cut off one of the Hydra's heads, two would grow back in its place. The Hydra became stronger with adversity until it met Hercules. So, what makes something anti-fragile? Here are a few key characteristics. Number one, less is usually more with anti-fragility. It pays to be small. With smallness becomes increased agility and flexibility during volatile and chaotic times. Some practical examples of this: guerrilla armies, terrorist organizations. If you want another perspective on that type of fight, check out Team of Teams by Stanley McChrystal. Number two, responses to variability and stress are built into the anti-fragile. Unlike fragile systems that require an outside response to protect them, anti-fragile things have strength and protection baked right in. A great example of this is the human body. Our bones actually require stress in order to grow and maintain strength. Third, anti-fragile things have built-in redundancies. Anti-fragile things don't make efficiency the primary goal. Thriving in randomness is the goal, which often requires being inefficient through layering redundancies. Fourth, nature and tradition do a good job of creating anti-fragility. You can look at how our body responds to fasting. When we go without food for long periods of time, our body actually releases hormones that make us stronger and mentally sharper. Our caveman ancestors evolved in a time when food acquisition was scarce and random, so our bodies evolved to adapt to that environment. For us scientific moderns, many traditions seem archaic and silly, but they developed for a reason and survived so long because they had a purpose. They're just basically time-tested heuristics that make living in a random and volatile world more manageable. Our rites of passage have been employed in cultures all over the world to enable young people to have a clear sense of when they become adults and should take on grown-up responsibilities, instead of letting them confusedly drift into adulthood. Through these challenging and oftentimes painful coming-of-age ceremonies, a young person emerges stronger than before. All right, so with these perspectives, we can analyze ourselves and our organization. Where am I? Where are we fragile? How can we make different areas of our lives anti-fragile? Can we do things to help our organization become anti-fragile? While being psychologically resilient, can we go a step farther and create an environment that helps make this outcome a possibility? Most of Taleb's book is filled with tactics and heuristics you can use to make your life and organization more anti-fragile. So here's some of his tips, as well as some from the McKays. Number one, intentionally inject stress in your life. Stress gets a bad rap, and long-term stress can have harmful effects, but short bouts of it can make you stronger and better. Your body and mind have anti-fragility built into them, but require stress for that anti-fragility to activate. So a few ways to inject some positive stress: fast, take cold showers, do something challenging, obstacle race, lift heavy weights, run instead of bike. Second, add redundancies to your life. Start that emergency fund. Add buffers to your schedule to take into account volatility that comes each day. Make a bug out bag. The gains from redundancies increase as volatility increases. Third, employ the barbell strategy. Taleb describes the barbell strategy as a dual attitude of playing it safe in some areas and taking a lot of small risks in others, hence achieving anti-fragility. Playing it safe reduces the potential downside of volatility, and taking small risks exposes you to the potentially massive gains from the same chaos. For the average Joe, it could mean keeping your boring day job, the safe end of the barbell, while working on your side hustle at night, which is the risky end of the barbell. If the side hustle doesn't work out, you still have your boring job, but if it does work out, you could live the dream of working for yourself and becoming wealthy. Fourth, never take advice from someone who doesn't have skin in the game. We live in a world where people's actions, opinions, and advice are divorced from consequences. When determining whether or not to take advice from someone, look to see if they have skin in the game. If the person dispensing the advice or making the prediction has nothing to lose from being wrong, don't listen to them. Pay more attention to people who've accepted risk and responsibility for their words. Fifth, practice via negativa. According to Taleb, the first step towards anti-fragility consists in first decreasing downside. We do that through practicing via negativa, a Latin phrase borrowed from theology. Instead of focusing your time on adding things to your life to make it better, first focus on subtracting habits, practices, things, and people that fragilize you. A few examples: getting rid of debt, quit smoking, stop hanging around toxic friends, eliminate unhealthy foods. And lastly, keep your options open. Increase optionality in your life. When volatility and chaos increase, it's the person with the most options who's the most anti-fragile. How do you increase optionality? Having money in the bank certainly increases options. It gives you breathing room during economic downturns, but also provides flexibility to take advantage of positive, unforeseen opportunities. Increase your skills gives you opportunities as well. If one career goes bust, you have skills to jumpstart a new one. All right, so here we are. After all you've heard, what do you think of this perspective? How does it apply to you? How do we apply this to the Double Deuce? I'm releasing this video early to give us plenty of time to think on practical application. So give a moment for reflection, personal and professional, about where we are fragile and what we can do to become anti-fragile. I look forward to the Thursday talk. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you soon. Peace.